Hey guys, happy Tuesday. Welcome to another episode of A Journey to Identity. I am your host, Sharon Tillman. How is everybody doing today? I hope everyone is having an amazing day. Listen, are you staying warm? Okay, like that's the first question of the day. Are you staying warm? It is so cold outside. Listen, y'all, it's cold, okay? This is like girl don't go outside cold kind of weather for me. Like if you know anything about me, you know that I am super cold natured, right? I'm super cold natured. I do not like the cold at all. Like we do not get along. I like to be cute in the cold, but I don't like to be cold. Does that make sense? Like I love UGG boots. I like oversized sweaters. I like my long jackets. Like I love almost like what the cuteness of the cold is without actually loving the cold. Listen, it's going over somebody's head because I know somebody is probably like, "Girl, that don't even make no sense." Listen. I get it. I completely get it. I say that every single time I'm going outside and I'm like, it is too cold for this, but I want to put my Uggs on, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? Don't worry about it. It's cold, y'all. So is everybody staying warm? Oh my goodness. Listen, I want to share this really quick with you about my children. So my children just don't wear jackets, okay? Like I just don't know what to say. Not my youngest. She's like her mom. She loves to be warm, okay? My older two children, I listen, I don't know. I just don't know what's going on. Somehow or another, these kids they're backwards, right? Like all the kids in the society, they're backwards. Like when it's hot outside, they got on hoodies and like sweatshirt. You know what I'm saying? Like it's so confusing. But when it's cold outside, they don't want to put jackets on. Like they're just like I don't know. My daughter just be like, "Ma, it's too hot to put on a big jacket." So she wants to put on like this little thin jacket that's really like a long sleeve shirt, right? My son doesn't want to put a jacket on at all because he's like, "Ma, I got on long sleeves. Like, that's enough." So I'm saying all of this to say we on our way to church on Sunday. Y'all, it was cold outside. I don't know about y'all, but it was cold outside, okay? And neither one of them had a jacket. My daughter had the little thin jacket that was really like a long sleeve shirt, y'all, because she had a short sleeve shirt on. Like, pray for her. My son had on no jacket because he said he had on a long sleeve shirt. And I'm like, clearly you guys have jackets for a reason. So I'm going down this whole spiel of things about, like why we wear jackets. My daughter is already sniffling, like what is happening? You know what I'm saying? Like all of the things. So like as we're driving, I just come out with like, you know what? It's so many cold people out here in this world. Like it is so many people who wish they had jackets that were like in their closet that they just did not utilize when the time came to utilize them. Like it's people out here who need jackets. So I was like, whenever we get back home from church, just bring me the jackets that you guys don't want to wear and we're gonna donate them. We're gonna donate them to someone who needs a jacket. Like next time we see somebody like out on the streets and they don't have a jacket on, we're gonna donate your jacket to them because you guys clearly don't want to wear it. Like if you could have saw their faces in that car, like I'm sharing this because I think sometimes we really do take things for granted. We take for granted the fact that we've got jackets. We take for granted the fact that we're getting in cars with heat, we're walking in houses with heat. Like we take those things for granted when there are people out there who have none of the things, right? The faces that they made when I said that was almost like, "Ma, like it's something wrong with you." Meanwhile, I'm looking at them like, "But no, is something wrong with you that is this cold outside and you came outside without it? Clearly, you don't really need it for real, right? Let's give it to somebody who do." So I just wanted to share that with y'all because I felt like that was such a cute story. But y'all, it's cold outside. So please bundle up. Oh my goodness, there are so many places for real that have sweaters and sweatshirts and things for those who are in need. If you find yourself in need and you can't find the outlet, please DM me. Please send me a message. Please let me know, and I will make sure that you get some warmth because it is very cold outside. Um, Oh my goodness. So I made my post this week about my graduation. Whoop whoop. Finally graduated. So I'm super excited about that. Y'all, listen, it was such a long time coming, okay? Like, this has been such a journey. So, I shared a little bit about my journey as I shared my photos from the journey. I had one of my good friends to make me like a shirt that said, like, she mastered it. She believed she could, so she did, and she mastered it. And so I took a picture with the shirt and I shared it on my social media platforms, and I got so much feedback, especially within my DM from different people, talking about the journey, how open I was to talk about the journey, how much I share. And I'm like, hey, listen, I'm so transparent that like I'm about to be see through, baby. Okay, like listen, I just like I just don't have a reason to be ashamed of the journey that I walk. Right? So I'm not ashamed of the journey that I walk. I have been through a lot of things, y'all. I promise you, I have been through so many things, but I'm so excited to see the version of me that gets to show up every single day, the version of who I am today, the version of God being so good, so big, and so prevalent in my life. Like, I absolutely love it. And so, I want to share that with others because I think it's one thing for you to see people in their glow up, right? You see people graduating, you see people doing big things, you see people doing things in general, you see people happy, you see people smiling, you see people making moves, and you automatically see the highlight reel, right? But you don't necessarily see what it took for them to get there. And so I believe that a part of my purpose is to show you that ugly version of where you were before you got there, right? There is no arrival. I say this every week, but there is a version of me that was ugly, and that the version of me that you get to see today is a reflection of what it was or what I never was. So I want to show you both parts, right? So I share my story and I share my journey to the depth in which I share, because I want you guys to see that I haven't always been here. This is all God. It's nothing that I've done so great, but it is all Him for sure. And it doesn't matter where you've been through. It doesn't matter where you've come from. It doesn't matter what your environment was, who your parents were, and who your parents are. God can still use you. You're not too damaged. You're not too old. You're not too far gone. You're not too you haven't done too much that he can't pick you up from where you are and still find the value in your life today, right? Because God never loses the value of who you are. You lose sight of the value of who you are. We lose sight of our value. We lose sight of who we've been called to be. We lose sight of who we could have ever been in him, but God never lost sight of who He purposed us to be even before we had an ideology of what our purposes could even be. Like before we were able to form our own identity, God had already formed identity within us. Before we were able to even consider what we wanted our lives to be like, God had already created a plan and a purpose for our lives. Before we got here in this earth and we decided that our happiness and what we want and what we feel mattered more than what God said, He had already decided what our lives, what our purposes was for this earth, like why he chose to give us life here on this earth, and how we were to live our lives out loud for him and for his glory. It was never about us, right? So I think a lot of times we lose sight of the very thing that we were trying to find and that we were trying to place on ourselves, instead of seeking to find the one who had already created it all. And so I shared that because I shared and I talked about how I didn't even feel like I was going to make it. I didn't even know that I could be like going through let me just recap this story, right? So when I talk about my journey, a part of my journey, I talk about my ex-husband John. I talk about, our relationship together. When John and I was still married, I did this podcast with two other wives called Wife to Wife, right? It was Wife to Wife, a wife's perspective. That was the name of the podcast. And we talked about all things wives, all things marriage, relationships. Like we talked about a lot of different things. It was a great podcast. I absolutely loved it until it started to disperse. It went from the three of us to the two of us to just me. But I always knew that there was something that I was supposed to do. I would help marriages and couples all the time. Listen, hypocritically, right? In my mind, because I'm like, I have the ability to help other people. Clearly, all this helping other people is really going to help me in my own marriage. That is like not okay, right? Like the reality of my marriage and the state that it was in was not always at the worst case scenario. However, it was always at a place where I knew that it could be so much more and that it could be so much better, and that I desired for it to be so much better. I desired um, to represent the kingdom with my marriage, right? Didn't know what that looked like when I first got married. Didn't even know that that was a thing when I first got married. Listen, I was just like a lot of the other people who get married, okay? Like, I was okay, it's all about the romance, it's all about the love. Like, we love each other. That's going to be enough to sustain us through the fire. We're going to be able to get through and overcome anything because the love is there, right? Like, call me crazy, call me young and dumb, okay? Because that's what I thought. So, in my mind, like, it's not perfect, but we are going to be able to get through all things because of the love that we have for one another, not even realizing that even with the love that we have for one another, sometimes you can love a person, but you don't love yourself enough to do better for yourself so that you can be better for the person. Let me say that again. Sometimes you can absolutely love a person. I have no doubt in my mind that John loved me. No doubt in my mind. I know that he loved me. But I don't know if John loved John enough to do right by John so that John could do right by me, right? Does that make sense? Because a lot of times we find ourselves in this place. So, also, little segue. If you have not seen my new challenge that is coming through on social media platforms right now, the challenge of the new you, I need you to dive in. I need you to go. I need you to fill out the survey. I need you to get registered. I need you to do all of the things. Okay, registration is going to open up right now. I'm just putting the fillers out there, but I need you guys to get in the room, okay? Because this is all about internal work, being the best version of who you are and the best version of who you've been called to be. Our identity in Christ and who he has called us to be, it really does matter. Like it plays the biggest part of who we are. We can think that we are so many things, but until we tap into the identity that Christ has on us, it's not sustainable, right? So, again, um thinking back about, just doing the work, right? You can love a person, but if you don't love yourself enough to want to do right by yourself, you can't do right by other people. It just doesn't work like that. Like, I love myself enough. I always use this with my clients. I don't know, like, all my analogies be about weight loss, okay? Because the girl is always on a diet. I'm just here to tell you, right? I'm always trying to lose 20 pounds. I always say, if I lose the 20 pounds, I won't always be trying to lose it, right? Like, okay, y'all pray for the girl. Anyway, the sustainable why is what matters, right? So if I love me, right, and I want to lose weight for me, then I'm going to do what's necessary to lose the weight for me so that I can be here for my children, right? If I love my children and I want to lose the weight for them, but I don't love me enough to want to do it for me, the why is not sustainable enough for me to lose the weight, right? Like, I'm trying to make an example of, like, the why needs to make sense, right? So if you find yourself doing something for somebody else, if you find yourself doing something for another person, if you find yourself doing something because somebody say you need to do it, your why is not always as sustainable as if it is if you're doing it for you and you can understand why you're doing it. So if somebody comes to me and say, Sharon, you need to go to the gym because you want to have like the Coca-Cola bottle figure. Like what was the numbers, like 36, 24, 36? I have clearly never been these measurements, so this is why it's so foreign to me. Okay? But if somebody comes to me and tell me that, I'm going to be like, "Yeah, no, I'm okay." Because I've never been a 36, 24, 36, and I don't have to start today. Okay? I don't need to be the Coca-Cola bottle. Like I'm actually okay, right? Not a sustainable wife for me. If somebody comes to me and say, Sharon, you need to go to the gym and you need to exercise because your heart needs it, then that changes the perspective of why I need to go to the gym. And it gives me a different motivation, a different why behind why I need to do what I need to do. So now I'm in the gym and I'm focusing on working out, not for my body, not for my measurements, but for my heart. Does that make sense? Like I was trying to put it in a way for you guys that made sense, right? But when I think about it, I think about like we were in this place where I felt like we could be better, right? Like as I started to dive into marriage, which is why I said in my post that I didn't choose it, God chose this for me. Like I never felt qualified to be a marriage counselor because again, clearly I had my own things going on in my own marriage, right? Easy to look at somebody else's marriage and tell them what to do when you can't tell yourself what to do. It's easy for you to look at someone else's situation and judge it based on what you know and what you see when clearly you've got your own things that you're not focusing on or you're refusing to focus on. Almost like one of those things where it's like, if I'm focusing on what they have going on, it takes my eye off of what I have going on. And clearly, what we need to be doing within our own marriage. We had moments like that. Okay. So I'm doing this podcast and like I'm reading up on these books. Like I remember back before the podcast even started, I started reading books. It was like I wanted marriage to look different for me. I didn't have healthy marriages that I saw lived out when I was growing up. I didn't see couples thriving in the sense of like a God identity for their marriage. I never saw that. I never knew what that looked like. So I wanted to be the mold breaker. Like my parents weren't married. John's parents were, but my parents were not. Although John's parents were married, John's parents were not functioning together as like a kingdom couple. I'll just leave it right there. Okay. So I wanted to see what that looked like, and I wanted to see what that looked like lived out loud. So I started reading books. I remember like it was almost like something came over me. That's what we say when we don't know that the Holy Spirit is dealing with us in a way because we haven't tapped into that persona yet. Something came a hold of me, something came over me, and I just started reading books. I remember the very first book that I read was Love and Respect. I think that was the very first book I read. So I started reading these books. I started diving into the Bible and what the Bible talked about love, what the Bible talked about marriage. I started diving into other books and like surveys and just like reading up. I did the 5 love language quiz, then I read the book. Like there were so many different things, right, that I was just finding myself in. At this point, I had already went to school for psychology, so I knew that my bachelor's was in psychology. Didn't really know what I wanted to do with it. Didn't really know that I wanted to be or that I would end up being a marriage therapist at all. Didn't really know that at all. So I remember just going through this, doing the podcast, talking about all of these different things, and just wanting something different when it came to my own union. So fast forward to getting to the place of the program. I applied for the program during the time when John was sick because he was sick. And I applied for the program because I knew that the program was going to start at the top of the year. And During the time John was sick is when I applied. When I found out that I actually got in, John and I were already separated. He had already left the house with all of his bags, honey. Okay? Because if you didn't watch the episode when I packed him up, you better go back and watch that episode because I packed him up and I sent him with everything he owned except for what was in the garage. There was nothing left of John in this whole entire house. Okay? That is how you that's how you Angela Bassett pack them up, okay? That's what you do. Anyway, I didn't set them on fire though. I didn't set anything on fire. But no, seriously. So going into this program, I felt like a real hypocrite. Like I felt like, okay, there is no way that I'm going to be able to really be successful as a marriage counselor because like I'm going through a divorce or I will be going through a divorce. At this time, we're separated. Don't know if we had filed for the paperwork for the divorce as of yet, but I knew that that was coming. So for me, in the beginning, I had my time outside. I talk about my time outside. Clearly, I'm still outside when I start this program, which was another downfall on my behalf because, like, my head was all up in the clouds somewhere, and it definitely wasn't on those books. But I also remember feeling internally like, how are you going to do this? Right? The stigma of divorce for me lingered on me. Because at that point, for me, it was a stigma of divorce. Like, I felt like that was going to be my label. I felt like that was going to be like how I was remembered, how I like, oh yeah, she was the girl that was married to John. Like I felt like that was going to be like my label for sure. So I struggled with it. But here I go, like, you know what? I'm going to do it anyway. I get in there and I'm just not focused. Like the things just aren't clicking for me in the way that I know that they should. Like, because I think the part of me that felt like this is unfair, I didn't choose this life, right? Because even when it comes to divorce, we have to make hard choices and hard decisions in divorce. Walking away from John was a hard choice and hard decision for me. I clearly have been with the same person for almost 20 years. Like from all my 20s, half of my 30s, half of my teens. Almost 20 years I have been with the same person. Everything that I felt like I had become with John, right? So everything that I was doing in my life by the time we separated, I had done wrote a book, I had done, done a podcast, I was already working on like a children's book, like it was so many things. I got my bachelor's while we were, together. So there were like so many things that I had done, that all of these things that I had done with John. Like the person that I felt like that I was at that time, I could attribute to being in relationship with John. Like I evolved from where I was in my teens when he met me to where I am today as we're separating. And all of this was like a contributing factor to where I was with him in a relationship. So it was a hard thing to walk away from. We had three children, three amazing children who I tried to shield and protect and to make sure that they never knew the things that were happening. Who I wanted to grow up in a two-parent home. And I told myself that way back when. So I was here, clearly here to live it out, like all of the things, right? So it wasn't an easy decision for me to walk away. So when I was able to walk away in my mind, it's like, I shouldn't hurt. I shouldn't hurt. I shouldn't feel any pain. I shouldn't feel like I know that I did everything that I was supposed to do. I know that I tried. I know that I fought. I know that I gave it my all. I know that I endured. I knew that I didn't give up. I worked at it like nobody's business and I knew that. So in my mind it's like he should feel it, I shouldn't feel it. There is no way that I should be sad or angry or mad or broken or confused or hurt. I shouldn't feel any of these things because I did what I felt like I was supposed to do. but I was so wrong. It was completely different. And so because of that, I couldn't wrap my head around becoming like a marriage therapist where people are actually going to believe in what I believe in when it comes to marriage if my outcome doesn't look like what their outcome should look like. So, this is how so often we confuse our faith and obedience in the outcome. God, am I supposed to do this? You said do this. I'm going to be obedient to do this. And then when I do it, because my outcome looks different, I feel like either I wasn't supposed to do it, something went wrong in the process. Like it's almost like we try to control the narrative with the outcome, and if the outcome doesn't make sense, then we feel like we failed. And that's clearly how I felt. Like this is not this is not it. Like I'm not, and I even shared there was a person of faith. I will not call their names or even say where they're from because at this point we've moved completely on. But they told me that people don't receive marriage counseling from single people. They're not going to take it from somebody who's single or somebody who's been divorced. Like, they really prefer marriage counseling to be from people who are married. So I don't even know how you would get plugged in like that. And y'all, that thing sat with me. Like it really affected me. And the offense was real, right? Because I was so upset and angry at this person by what they said. Like to the point where when I see them, I would like go the other way. Like I told y'all how I struggle with forgiveness. That was a real thing. Like listen, I am not here to play with you. When I say if I didn't like you, you felt it, I mean if I didn't like you, you felt it. Like I definitely had that effect to make you feel like you wasn't in the room and you could be standing right beside me. Like it was a real thing, right? So I definitely was offended. It hurt my feelings. It made me angry, and it affected the identity that Christ had already put on me. It affected who I believed that I could become because of what I had gone through. This is why I'm always talking about it doesn't matter where you've been, it doesn't matter where you come from, it doesn't matter who your parents are, it doesn't matter what your environment is. The identity that God had for you is still valid because my identity was shaken, or who I thought that I could be in Christ was shaken because my outcome looked different than what I would have wanted it to look like. Like I could have went through all of the same things, but if John would have got it together and our marriage would have been saved, I would have felt more qualified to tell the story. I would have felt more qualified to help other people because clearly it's like I have the evidence to say that that God intervened in this marriage, that if he can do it for us, he can do it for you. Let me help you. Right? A part of me didn't feel qualified enough to say that sometimes God intervening in your marriage is you walking away. Because that's not the outcome that people want to hear. People don't want to hear like your marriage resulted in divorce and God was present. Because people automatically think that if your marriage ended in divorce, then somehow or another God wasn't the third strand. Like he wasn't the three he wasn't the center. He wasn't a part of the three-strand cord, right? But that's not true. We'll make people feel like that, and sometimes we'll even feel like that about ourselves, but the reality is that's not always true. And so we can't focus so much on the outcome, so much on what things look like, focus so much on what we what our plan, our desire, or what we feel like is favorable to us, right? In hopes that this is what we're supposed to be only if it works out this way. So I'm saying all of this to say that is where I was. So when this person of faith said that to me, it shook my core. And it made me feel like I can go to school, I can do all of these things, but what if I don't get no clients? Like, what if nobody comes to me because I am divorced? Like, what if nobody feels like I can help them because I couldn't help myself? Like, God, how is it even possible that I am supposed to help somebody else save their marriage and I couldn't even save my own marriage? Like, maybe He's right. Maybe I need to find another way. Like, maybe there's something else I can do. Like, I don't know. And so I remember taking some time off and I took the full year out of school. Like, I had got on academic probation because clearly I had failed a class. And so when you're in a master's program, failing is not like getting an F. Failing is like you can't have anything less than a B, or a B plus. Actually, in the master's program, we couldn't get anything under a B plus. And so clearly I had a grade that was not a B plus. And when I went in again, I was on the verge of having another grade that was not a B plus. So I was having two fails. And I was like, you know what? Let me get, it was almost like one of those things like, let me bow out gracefully before y'all bow me out. I don't want to be kicked out of school. So let me just take the time out and pull myself out of school because right now, clearly I'm not supposed to be here. Clearly I'm not focused. Clearly I don't know what I'm doing. This ain't it, right? That was my thought process. This ain't it. So I took a full year off. Within that year, I did some work. I did internal work. I did work to where I could start to see who God was calling Sharon to be all by herself. Like, I was thinking because I came into this marriage without identity, that clearly I needed the title of marriage to sustain the identity that I had. And God was like, no, you didn't. And I'm stripping you away from the identity that you are landing on or depending on because I need you to know that that is not the foundation of where you are or what you can do. Like, that's not the foundation of who you are and who you are to become. And so I believe like that it was all a part of God's plan. All of the things that I needed to get, all of the wisdom that I needed to gain, everything that I got in the marriage with John. Let me be clear. I was not with John for 20 years of misery. Okay? It wasn't 20 years of misery. Like, we had good times. We had great times. We had happy moments. We didn't have 20 years of just agony. It wasn't like that at all. I want to be very clear, and it wasn't like that at all. It wasn't 20 years of agony. It wasn't 20 years of, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm still here. Oh my gosh, I'm waking up another day. I'm waking up another year. Here we go. It wasn't like that all the time. We had good times, right? But clearly, God needed me to know that my identity was wrapped up in that. But the identity that He placed on me before He formed me in my mother's womb was not. And that's what it was all about. So fast forward to get back in the program. And I remember having a conversation with my counselor and we talking about the situation. And he said, Sharon, I'm excited to see what you do because the enemy didn't want you here. Like, it's a Christian school, right? I'm a Christian marriage counselor for a reason, right? It's a Christian school. We talk about faith. We talk about how to incorporate our faith in our counseling because I'm not going to do one without another. You can't be, my faith is who I am, right? It goes with me everywhere I go. I never leave home without it. So in order for me to do what I do effectively, I needed to know how to incorporate it effectively, right? So I remember having the meeting with him right before it was time for me to go back and him saying to me like, Sharon, I'm excited to see what you do because the enemy didn't want you here. But because you have made a choice to come back, you better know it's all going to be worth it. I remember that. Shout out to Matthew. He was my counselor. And those words stuck with me because it was in that moment that I realized that, like, Okay, the enemy trying to set me up. Like I say it all the time, right? Like the enemy can never stop the plan of God for our lives. He can't. He can frustrate us, he can distract us, he can put all of the things in the way of the plan, but he can't actually stop the plan. The only ones who can stop God's plan from being revealed or from from showing up in our lives is us. We're the ones because we stop in the tracks that the enemy set for us. And so clearly, had I not got back in school, I would have been stopping the plan that God had. Not because the enemy started to distract or the enemy wanted me out, but because I chose to stop. I chose to allow him to win. I chose to allow all of the things that he was doing and saying, and even the people that he used, right? I allowed them to stop and to make me disbelieve what God had already spoken over me. And so, even when it came to the person of faith that said it, I realized the offense. I was offended, right? But in my offense, I had to see me in that. Why was I offended? How can I grow? What needs to happen in this particular moment for me? Because I realized that it wasn't even about what the person said anymore. Because the person can say whatever they want to say. Clearly, how I received it was how I really felt. That's what I was feeling. They just triggered an anxiety or a fear that I was already dealing with. But the reality was deep down inside, I felt that way. And that's why I responded and that's why I reacted that way. And so when I realized the offense and I realized my part in it, I had to go back and make that right. Not them. Because it wasn't on them. It doesn't excuse necessarily what they said or them allowing the enemy to use them in that moment. But my accountability is on my side. And I think whenever we start to really grow, when we start to really mature in the faith, we stop looking for excuses to be a certain way. We don't look for excuses to be offended. We don't look for excuses to stop dealing with people. We don't look for excuses to not forgive or excuses to show up in this manner. We take the accountability necessary for our end because we, at the end of the day, are accountable for ourselves. And so I fought and I went through this program, and y'all, it wasn't easy, okay? Because I'm a single mama out here in these streets, and I can't wait to share the sacrifices of my testimony. The Lord has not released me to share that yet, but when He releases me to share that, you better know I'm going to share that too. But there were sacrifices that I had to make, and it was hard, y'all. I wouldn't lie to you. It was hard, but we did it. We absolutely did it and we made it to the other side. And I have so much faith in who God has called me to be and how He's going to use me with this degree. I have so much faith. I dealt with so many different couples while on this journey because we do a full year of internship with this school. Before we can get our license, we have to do a full year of interning. We have to do um, so many hours relational, couples, so many hours of family, so many hours of supervision. Like it's a whole thing, okay? If you're an MFT out here in these streets, you know what I'm talking about. But it was a whole process, right? But every single couple that I had an opportunity to work with, I could see the impact. Like I knew going into these sessions, and then after we would come out of these sessions, it was almost confirming to me over and over and over again why I'm here. I didn't go through the things in my marriage with John because I just needed to go through things in my marriage with John. I went through things in my marriage with John because a lot of times everything that we go through is not just for us. A lot of things is for the breaking and the maturing and the cultivating of our character. But there are also things that we go through so that we can be a witness, we can bear witness, and so that we can help others. And there are so many situations that I've experienced with John within this 20-year journey. Like it's so amazing how I can say, I feel like I've exhausted like all of the vows, right? We have lived in better and worse. We've lived in sickness and health. Like almost to death do us part. Like all of the vows I can literally say at some point within that 20-year relationship I lived out. And so I have so much experience to bring from both sides of the spectrum, right? And I no longer look at my divorce or the outcome, right? Being a divorce as a negative thing or as a bad thing or as a stigma or even as like something that just happened, but I look at it more so as this is another way that God gives life, because so many times, right? Hence my whole group that's coming for divorced women. I have a whole group that's coming for divorced women. So if you are divorced and you've ever been divorced, or if you're going through divorce and somehow along the way you lost yourself in that divorce, you have forgotten that you still have purpose, that God still has need of you individually within that time, I want you to see me. I want you to get into that group. I want you to get into the room so that you can be reminded of who it is that God already called you to be even before joining you together with the person that you divorced, right? Because I think a lot of times we look at it like, oh, if the marriage is saved, then God is glorified. But God is glorified if the marriage isn't saved, but the person that the enemy tried to kill don't die, right? Like not even a physical death, but a spiritual death. I remember saying to myself when I was outside, clearly I talk about being outside all the time, right? You're going to hear me say it all the time because I was outside. But I can even remember saying when I was outside, I used to tell people, I used to be like, hey, enjoy me while I'm out here because I ain't going to be out here for a long time. The Lord not going to let me stay for a long time. Like he not going to let me be out here in these streets, like just doing that. So like while I'm out here, like have fun with me. And people used to laugh at me because they used to be like, what is wrong with you? Like, who says that? Like me. Because I knew that there was so much more inside of me. And I made up in my mind and I made a decision that I wasn't going to die with that marriage. There is no way that I was going to die with that marriage. And I'm not even talking about a physical death because my health is fine. To God be the glory. I don't have any health issues or health concerns, health scares, or anything of that nature. Didn't then, don't now. So it was never a physical death that I was worried about, but it was a spiritual death. Like, God, there is something on the inside of me. I've known this for some time at this point. When I went through that divorce, I knew that God had a call on my life. I knew that there was something inside of me that he was going to use. I can remember the prophecy a few years even before my divorce that came through that said that I was going to make history. I'll never, ever, ever forget that prophecy. It literally changed the way I looked at everything. So I knew that there was something that God was going to do. I knew that there was a way that God was going to use me. I knew that God had great plan and great purpose for my life. I wasn't going to die with that divorce. And I made my mind up. Spiritually, I'm not going to die here. I am going to be all that God has called me to be. I am going to do all of the things that God has called me to do. So I think a lot of times it's more so of like, even if it doesn't end the way you want it to end, right? Because clearly I would have never chosen divorce. Never. I didn't walk down the aisle to get a divorce. I love marriage, hence me wanting to be married again. I love marriage. Now, my standards look a little different because, when I met John, I was 15. Okay? I ain't know no better. I'm about to be 40. Okay? I got a whole new outlook on life. Let's be very clear. So, things look different for me. My standards are different. My core values are different. What I need is different. But I love marriage. I love what marriage represents. I desire kingdom marriage with my spouse. And I believe that the Lord is going to answer that. I believe that wholeheartedly. I have no doubt in my mind that my kingdom spouse, that my spouse and I, we are going to represent the kingdom without question. I believe that. That God is going to answer that desire of my heart. I believe that wholeheartedly. Because it's not wrapped up in me. It's all about glorifying him. And ultimately, that's what it's all about. But I knew that although my situation ended in divorce, right? My marriage ended in divorce. That's a better word. I didn't want to use situation, but I couldn't find the word. Although my marriage ended in divorce, God's plan for my life was still valid. It wasn't going to fail. And so there are going to be people who are going to literally get in marriages, and theirs are going to end in divorce. Like, there are going to be marriages that are going to be saved. There are going to be marriages that are going to get it together, figure it out, and they're going to do life together in a way that represents God like never before. There are marriages that God is going to do an entire 180 on, and you'll never even be able to know what the issues were in their marriage if they don't talk about it. Wholeheartedly, I believe that. But that won't be everybody's story. Everybody won't have that story. And so God needs for us to know that even if your marriage ends in divorce, even if your marriage had to end in divorce, that was the call for you or for the marriage. It doesn't mean that that's the end for you. The plan and the purpose that I still had in your life, on your life, when you walked into that marriage is the same plan and purpose that's still valid today. Who you are according to God is who you've always been. God didn't change his mind about you because you got married and said, okay, now your plan is only going to be wrapped up in this plan. And if this plan don't work out, then you no longer have a plan. Come on. We're dealing with the God of all things, sees all things, know all things, be everywhere at all times. You don't think he got this thing already worked out? You don't think he knows what marriages are going to be saved and what marriage is going to end in divorce before we walk down the aisle? Whether we go to the altar and die to ourselves or whether we go to the altar and we are selfish as all get out, he knows how things are going to turn out because he knows all things. Now we have the ability to do right, to change our mind, to make different choices, to make different decisions. But ultimately, God knows all things. So now I look at my life as a testimony, right? I don't look at my divorce anymore as a stigma. And if you've ever been in my group, I introduce myself as divorced, not because I wear the stigma of divorce, but my introduction is always I am a divorced mom because I need for people to know that you don't have to hide behind the shame of going through a divorce. You don't have to hide behind it. You don't have to cover it. You don't have to pretend that it never happened to you. And you don't have to lose out on being exactly who God has created you to be because you went through a divorce. Going through a divorce does not mean that God changes his mind about you. It doesn't. It does not. And so now that's how I see it. So when I think about the journey of going back to school and coming out on the other side and, completely finishing up and getting a master's degree is so huge for me, right? Like I'm the first of my mom's kids. My mom and my mom has a brother, and I'm the second of the both of their kids together. But I'm grateful. Like I never even it was never even like I didn't go I didn't graduate high school like, oh my God, I can't wait to like go to college and get a bachelor's and then get a master's and then maybe get a PhD or a doctorate. Like that won't ever end my story because like clearly like I was ready to get out of school. Like I was tired of doing schoolwork. Okay. Like I ain't gonna hold you. Bachelor's I saw. Mm, continued education after that. I was like, yeah, I don't know. I didn't really see it, right? But to be where I am today, I'm so grateful. And to understand it and to see it from the way that God allowed it to happen. Like, this degree means so much more to me, knowing all that I endured just to get it. I endured to get it. I went through the fire to get it. I didn't give up to get it. And I can promise you, there were days and there were times, there were assignments where I was like, I can't do this. There were sacrifices that needed to be made where there were moments when I was like, God, this is unfair. I can't. I can, but I can't because it's so unfair. I don't want to be here. Like I can remember those moments, but I kept pushing, never stopped, never gave up, even when I wanted to throw in the towel. Even when I had to drag myself out there to keep going, I drug myself out there and I kept going. And so I am elated today to be where I am, to have this accomplishment and just to be at the beginning of what God wants to do. I only believe that this is the beginning of what God wants to do and what God is going to do. And so I want to encourage you. I don't know if I was going to go in this way for my podcast today, but I'm always open to the Holy Spirit having his way. But I want to encourage you because there's someone out there who needs to know. You need to be reminded, right? That your story doesn't change God's plan and purpose for your life. Your outcome doesn't change what God wants to do. You can trust him with your life and your outcome. Because just because it doesn't come out looking the way that you would like it to look, it doesn't come out looking the way that you think that it should look. Like when you think of a marriage therapist, you would think of someone who has a successful marriage. Well, what does a successful marriage look like? You would think of someone who's still married, who can relate to you today. Well, what does that really look like? Does it negate the tools? Does it negate the education? Does it negate the applications and things that I've learned while in school, as well as walking this journey for almost 15 years? It doesn't negate any of those things. It's still very valid. It is still very present. And God is saying, listen, it doesn't matter what the outcome looked like because I was already prepared for that. I just want you to know, and I need you to know that who you are in me doesn't change. Your divorce doesn't make me look at you differently. I still see the value in you. I still see the value in your life. I still see the value in who I've called you to be. And I have every intention on fulfilling the promises on your life in spite of what the outcome looks like. I just want to encourage you. Listen, I just want to encourage you. I really feel like this is what God wants to say to someone today. Someone who's listening, someone who's going to be driving in their car while they're going to work or while they're driving home from work, whether you're cooking dinner and you're listening in, whatever you're doing at whatever given time, I believe that God wanted you to know that he didn't change his mind about you, sis. He didn't change his mind about you. And in spite of what your outcome is or was, because there are people who have been divorced for years who are still walking around feeling unworthy not valuable, and not enough on the inside. They're feeling purposeless. Like, I'm trying to maneuver on the outside, but inside, I don't feel worthy of it. I don't feel enough because of my divorce. And I want you to know, God wants you to know that that is a lie from the enemy. It's a lie. You're still valuable. You're still worthy. Your marriage didn't make you valuable. Your marriage didn't make you worthy. So the divorce doesn't get to take away something that the marriage didn't create. You were worthy when you walked in that marriage. You were valuable when you walked in that marriage. You had purpose when you walked in that marriage. So walking out of the marriage doesn't strip you of the things that were already embedded and planted inside of you before you got there. In fact, it strengthens and it heightens who God has called you to be when you can walk away from a situation that was not favorable to you and still give God the glory for who He's calling you to be. Still believe in the God that called you. Still believe in the plan and the purpose that He has for your life. To still believe that He is going to come through for you every single time. And your divorce, or whatever your situation may be, I'm speaking on divorce because we're talking about my marriage license, but it may not be divorce for you. Whatever it was for you, God didn't change His mind because the outcome looks different. He still has you in His mind, and He still has every intention on fulfilling the promise that He has for your life. Be encouraged, and don't ever forget, who you are in God is who He's called you to be. Listen, I love you guys for real. Thank you so much for tuning in for another episode of A Journey to Identity. We're going to jump back into our relationships next week, guys. I still want to bring someone on the podcast, so I'm going to try my best to either get them on for next week or get them on for the week of Christmas. But either way, it would definitely be, hopefully, I don't want to make any false promises, but I'm trying before December goes out. I'm trying. Listen, I love you guys for real. Have an amazing day. And until next week, be great.